Verse 11. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with heavy burdens. They built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramses. Right, so what did they do? So they're going to try and solve this problem. A little bit like Pilate later on with Jesus. Let's give him one hiding, bring him out. Will you let this guy go? No. And give him another, a worse beating up. And then, okay, that kind of thing, right? So we start with, okay, this is the easiest solution. Let's just work them harder, okay? Because if they work harder, no time to sit at home and watch TV or... Now, these days it's solved by letting people watch TV and play games. Like men these days just play TV and watch games. They don't have time for anything else, especially not having, knowing their wives or intercourse with their wives or whatever and making children kind of idea, right? It's the easiest solution, okay? It's a different way of enslavement. Drain the brain and enslave them in front of a TV or a computer screen, a cell phone screen or tablet screen or whichever kind of screen. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's exactly the same thing, just a more humane, whatever. But yeah, so you guys are going to be busy. We never change, right? Humans, we just stay the same old same. Yeah, so they're going to be busy working. They're not going to have the strength to go back home and to have intercourse with their wife and have children, because they will be too tired for that, right? Because it takes some strength. Okay, so that was like kind of the thought most likely behind them. And yeah, so afflicting them with heavy burdens, let them work harder. So taskmasters. So you see, at that stage they were not slaves. Okay, now they put taskmasters for, and they're not slaves yet. They're just taskmasters yet. They're just working still for a kind of a salary, not slaved yet. So they build these cities, store cities. Like, I mean, Joseph had the people build store cities, right? I mean, they had built stores in this to store all the grains. So that's just, well, not a bad thing, right? It's kind of good, you know. And so, yeah, they built these cities, Pithom and Ramses. And it's, again, kind of interesting how, like I said already earlier in this video, that how we never change. So seemingly always those pesky immigrants are the guys doing the dirty work, the building work. I mean, the vast majority of builders in this city they are Burmese, right? Burmese immigrants or illegal immigrants in some cases. I mean, when an earthquake happened, that building collapsed, they are just basically Burmese that died in it. Okay, so the earthquake killed not only Burmese there in Myanmar, but here as well. That's the people doing the dirty work. The Qatar, all those places, for the World Cup in Qatar, who built all those stadiums? Those immigrants, right? Again, nothing changes. Oh man, oh. It's really sorry. It's just so hilarious. And what just gets to me is the fact that how we try to say, okay, we are today different than the people in the past. We are so much more intelligent, all those kinds of things. Stop lying to yourself, people. Stop lying, politicians. That's all you can do. I know you can't speak the truth. You don't know how to speak the truth, but you know. Maybe try now and then. Anyhow, verse 12. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread abroad. And the Egyptians were in dread of the people of Israel. Okay, so it didn't work, right? They're oppressing, so now the people are oppressed and they feel bad at work. So they get home and they try seemingly to get rid of all this pent-up frustration. So what do? They go to their wives and they have more kids, right? I mean, they had no TV to watch. They had no rugby or cricket or football, soccer to watch kind of idea or to take part in. They're sure not strength for that. Maybe, you know, if they were doing that, then they would not have. But anyhow, they went to their wives, got rid of the frustration, having intercourse with their wives and getting more kids. And they spread further, right, abroad. So they kind of already into other territories. And so what happens results? The Egyptians they're in dread. Oh, wow, okay, it's fair, you're trying to stop us. What all you're doing is you're actually making the situation worse. Verse 13. So they ruthlessly made the people of Israel work as slaves. Okay, so the taskmasters wasn't enough, so let's tire them out even more. Okay, let's make them slaves. So if they're slaves, no rights, work 24/7, well, no one can work 24/7, but basically 20 hours a day or something like that. I mean, that is basically it. But I mean, they were under these guys to be so tired that they will just get home and fall down on the carpet there and sleep, right? Sure, not in a king size bed, just down and sleep. That's all they wanted them to do, because then for sure, I mean, they would just get like, and then the next morning, oh, I go to work again. Oh, and then at work, like so many people in the mornings, their jobs kind of, and then they get home and just fall back and sleep, kind of idea. That's maybe what they, that's maybe why there's so few. The Japanese now, 900,000 people more dying than being born, because the poor Japanese work so hard. They don't have time for that. And I mean, I know I'm just saying this tongue in cheek. It's part of the problem, and same for Korea, right? So enslaving them. Okay, now they're enslaved. They've always been under the oppression, right? Ever since Isaac and Ishmael. But this is now that final stage, like in a terminal cancer kind of idea, that final stage. Verse 14. And made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and brick, in all kinds of work in the field. In all their work, they ruthlessly made them work as slaves. Okay, so remember they started off how? By tending the flock. Now, if you tend flocks, so what do? There the cattle walk grazing, and you sit under a bush now. They wouldn't have lots of shade there anyhow, but they're sitting there under a tent or shade of some sort that they would make themselves, and whatever. They're relaxing, they're sleeping, so they get home. I know it's not always easy to look after sheep, man. They can just get up and disappear, kind of idea. You need to search for weeks and then for the stuff, for the animals. But in general, it's not. I mean, I remember my dad, like, he had one kind of farm, and then we moved to another where we basically had cattle, and he got bored of it, because you get up early in the morning and milk the cows, and then that's kind of that, right? And so yeah, the people would have had that's how it started out. But now, what are they forcing them to do? They're forcing them to build, right? Not what their speciality was in, at least not in the beginning. They're forcing them to work the land, farming. Again, not the speciality. But this is now everything that they're. But I mean, this is actually going to work out well for them ultimately in the end, because when they go and they build their own land, when they get back to the promised land, they're going to need to build and to farm. And if they'd never had the experience in Egypt, then they wouldn't have known it. Now I know, okay, farming in Egypt is different than farming in Israel, right? In Egypt, you have the Nile overflowing its banks, so you don't have rain, so you work with that, right? In Canaan, the promised land, it's going to rain now and then, so you need to adapt to that, and you plant differently. In other words, it's a different type of agriculture, but at least some part of it is still the same, kind of getting used to. And most likely as well, the buildings is going to be done in a different way, right? Like in Babylon, they build with bricks, while there they build in the promised land with rocks. Okay, but still, again, you get this kind of, it's in the kind of same field. So, unbeknownst to the Egyptians, they're actually helping ultimately the Jews in later on. Okay, but yes, in so many other ways, they were destroying them. They were forcing them not to be able to have their own weapons and armies and stuff like that, so not be able to protect themselves. But God took care of that for that 40 years in the desert. I mean, God could have, as in the end, when they leave and go to Jericho and the walls come down, God could have done all of this without weapons, right? But it's kind of a normal part for nation building. The most important part, actually, of them being in the desert was going to be the law, the giving of the law, the forming of a nation. Okay, so that the Egyptians kept away from them. But then in forcing and enslaving them in such a way, then they actually, in a certain sense, help them to go out into different fields where they then can learn, I mean, different, not field land, but different fields of expertise, and learn new things, and then use this later on in their building and farming in Canaan, at least part of it.